You guys should get your notice. I got some green tea.
You are so Colorado hippie now. I swear. You're
What?
just going off the deep
Green
end.
tea is Colorado hippie?
Is it oolong cubby wubby womb room tea?
No, it's like some kind of Lipton shit from the store.
You're not even buying Celestial Seasonings? Come on, man. Shop local.
Look.
It's up the road.
Buckle's too far.
You should go visit the Celestial Seasonings plant. It's trippy.
Didn't even know it was here. How's
Yeah,
that?
it's just north of Boulder.
Really? It's
Yeah,
that's far away.
I worked there. I did a temp job there for a weekend. Got all kinds of free tea.
Really? It's good to know.
Yeah. Just take Foothills Parkway out of Boulder, and bam, there it is.
All right, I'm going to stay out of the chat room today because last time I did that, and all I did the whole show was tinkered with the audio settings. So it's going to be what it is, and hopefully it sounds good. Did you guys get a notification?
No, I don't think, no.
Okay. Well, that doesn't mean anything because YouTube sucks.
It doesn't mean anything at all.
YouTube.com/live/Wood Talk Show.
Yeah, I think about it. There were no live updates, no broadcast updates for my live thing last night either. That was weird.
Wood Talk Show.
Yeah, I don't think I got one for the Offcuts show today.
Yeah.
No,
lately,
you're right.
Lately they've been
It's weird.
Yeah, we're live, so lately
Sure.
they've been sucking with that. Not sure why.
I don't think I got
Alex-
one for the Offcuts show today.
Alex Leffelman
No,
says he
you're
got a
right.
notification. Lately they've been. Maybe I should not talk and play that at the same time.
Yeah, probably.
It gets really confusing. Sharif
I
says
hear
he got
myself.
them. So you guys aren't getting them. I'm not getting them, but other people are.
No,
You have to have, it's YouTube's new policy, you have to have at least 1 million subscribers and
That's it.
400 billion watch hours.
Yeah,
in
the
last
notification
year
system won't work.
in order to get notifications.
Oh.
You know what? They should just can it and go to the Facebook. Could you imagine? If YouTube did what Facebook does and suddenly the creators have to pay to access all of their subscribers?
Yeah.
It's not outside of the realm of possibility that they would do that one day.
What, next month, you think YouTube will do that?
Could you imagine, though? That would be nuts.
Oh, God, yes. I'm paying.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous.
What do you think YouTube Red, whatever the heck that thing is.
Red.
I mean, that's the architecture, right? That's the step in the right direction. So they have the architecture in place, and all I have to do is flip a switch, and you have to pay, and you could pay, X dollars more to boost your reach.
Yeah, boost your reach.
Boost this post because it's performing 177% better than any other post from this.
I get that for Wood Talk all the time, and it's like,
seriously.
Was it so? There's 5 more people watching than there was last week.
Right.
Yes, 20% growth. Yeah, I am surrounded by 2 giants. The way this thing is laid out. Oh shoot! I dropped my marker. Now what am I going to fiddle with while I do the show? Okay.
Where's my baseball marker?
All right, let's do a show, shall we? I think everything's sounding good. I think we're ready to roll. Hey, let me make sure you guys can hear the audio. You hear this?
Hey, Mark, Matt, and Shannon.
Yep.
Sweet.
Very well.
All right, we're good to go then. Let's rock and roll.
Welcome to Wood Talk. Now here are 3 guys who could do that too, if they had those tools. Mark, Shannon, and Matt.
All right, it is
love
episode.
that one.
Isn't that a good one? It's episode 425 for February 5th, 2018. On today's show, we're talking about grain tear out, bandsaw upgrades, why do they like gray, and how can we stop it? Woodworking stuff in Europe, and what lathe setup to start with. Now, today's show is sponsored by our friends over at Brusso Hardware. Brusso is the premier manufacturer of American-made brass and stainless steel hardware, with customers using these products for a variety of things, ranging from boxes, furniture, and cabinetry. Brusso has the perfect item to complement your next project. Sign up for their newsletter to keep up to date on sales, announcements, customer-submitted photos, and more. To see their line of hardware, be sure to visit their website at brusso.com. And check this out, guys. Coupon code time. What?
Oh, boy.
Right?
Yay.
I'm telling you, 10% off your order. Use the code WOODTALK at checkout. I actually just used their hardware on that jewelry box, and holy smokes, it was awesome. I'll tell you what, those 95-degree stop hinges, the butt hinges, are fantastic. Like, you don't need any other hardware. You just install the butt hinges, and the thing stops where it's supposed to stop, and it's a glorious thing that they've created. So go check them out. Brusso.com. Great people, great products made in USA. It's pretty awesome stuff. We'd also like to thank a few individuals who helped us out. We have Mark Manula, Blings and Things, our good buddy Tom Buell. What's so funny about that? That's a perfectly legitimate name.
Blings and Things.
Blings and Things.
All right.
I like it. That sounds good to me.
I mean, I don't dislike it. I do like it.
It's just kind of funny.
I was expecting you to read, names.
Blings and Things. I guess some people use their, it's from PayPal. So some people have their business names attached. It's even better that that's a business. So,
yes.
Jay Abramovitz. And then a few folks who helped us out over on Patreon, and that's patreon.com/woodtalk. Chris Hyde, or Heed, Nathan Lent Wes, Joshua Seiler, Jose Velasquez, and John Kodowski. So thank you so much, folks, for helping us out. And if you want to do that too, just head over to Patreon, patreon.com/woodtalk, and we will make you famous by reading your name at the top of the show. Yeah, and then we'll make fun of your business name while we're at it.
You're famous now.
Yeah, enjoy
Go
that.
check out Blings and Things.
Blings and Things. It's a place I'd like to shop.
Seriously, that does sound like a nice little boutique store.
I need to Google this now.
Main Street, USA, somewhere.
Blings and Things. Yeah, let us know what you find. All right, so aside from that stuff, let's get to what's on the bench. I'll go first here. So I've been taking a lot of photos, trying to get good at the whole still photography thing. It's really, it's a lot harder, the video. There's just a lot more to play with and a lot more variability. And I think it's a lot less forgiving, because in a video, things are just moving and you got sound, you got action, and you can learn something, and you can you can get caught up in the dialogue of it and sort of the drama of it. But when you look at a picture, it's like, that's it. And you either get it or you don't get it, So yeah, it's a whole different ball game. But I'm trying to learn, trying to do my best with the photos. But I am taking these pictures for the upcoming book, and I'm still looking forward to that kick in the nuts from you guys next time I see you too.
Have we been told what's the title of this book? Or is that all just top secret at this point?
It's not that it's top secret. It's that we haven't decided on a final title yet.
We're still figuring that out.
Yeah, I mean, basically,
can you share a topic?
Yeah, you can count on it involving something like essential joinery. So it's
a joinery book.
Yeah, it is a joinery book. Essential for success in being a good person.
Cut these joints for inner peace.
Yeah, for self-worth. And
inner peace through joinery. That's it.
Go.
There's your title right there.
Right.
Actually, that's our show title right there.
So that is the topic, but there's too much that needs to be planned from here, so we haven't finalized an actual title or pre-order dates or anything like that. But it's definitely keeping me busy.
Just ask this: Do you rescue the princess at the end? Can you tell me the end?
Always.
Okay.
And there's a secret level as well.
Do you find the Easter egg?
Yes, you have to. You have to wait for your Nintendo Power magazine to come in before you find out about those things. Total aside, I was explaining that to Mateo recently. A kid who doesn't understand the concept of, he could just go on YouTube and find hints and stuff to the games he plays. And I'm like, do you realize, sounded like the old fart here. I'm like, do you realize, Mateo, that in the past, I would have to buy a magazine or wait for a Nintendo Power to come in to find secrets in a game. You couldn't just go on YouTube and discover. There weren't walkthroughs, other than some really expensive manuals that you could buy to walk you through a game. But
oh yes,
it's crazy.
The game guides.
Yeah, those are great. Brady games. Okay, this is not a video game podcast though. Maybe I should redirect.
It's a retro video game podcast.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about Crash Bandicoot walkthroughs.
There you go. My favorite. All right, so the other thing that happened was my neighbor Jim, really, really nice guy. He's getting some floors installed, Brazilian cherry with a walnut border around the outside. So I guess they bought, it was all special order and would have been a pain in the butt to return. So out sitting in front of my garage the other day, I find a nice stack of walnut floorboards.
so the Spagnola house is the neighborhood dumpster.
Yeah, drop your wood off here. Hey, if you're going to be dumping walnuts somewhere, I'll be that dumpster. I was going to
say, that's an ugly precedent that just started. You're going to start seeing fiberboard and,
pallets. Yeah, stacks of pallets.
Drop your pallets here.
Yeah.
Spagnola junkyard, here it comes.
Yeah, but this is you can't even call this reclaimed. Yes, I may have saved it from some other fate, but it's perfectly straight. It's perfectly clear material. Maybe plane it down to get rid of the little ridges on the bottom and maybe get rid of the tongue and groove. But it's still perfectly usable walnut. So
unless you use it as flooring, it's reclaimed.
Yeah, maybe
Or
in
salvage,
in
or something
pure
like that.
definition, but not in spirit. So my thought is there's a lot of it there, and what I'm probably going to wind up doing is first, before I do anything, or before I put it on a rack and not touch it for a couple of years, which is what I normally do with things, I probably would just build like a little table or something for them just as a thank you, because there's plenty of material to like build a table and then still have plenty left over to have fun with. So it's nice to have friendly neighbors. I like that.
If you do your floor thing, you could have your floorings already like half done. There you
Yes,
go. If you've already leveled that floor,
and I've already
you can
decided-
get sweet wood floors in there.
Already decided I'm not doing the floor, so doesn't really matter. It's too much work,
wall
man.
paneling, do it.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
Do you know how much crap I would get for having a walnut wall? Like,
But do you care anymore?
You
You've already
know,
heard it all.
I guess I don't. I've
You
been
know what?
insulted
But
in
see-
every way you could possibly insult a person. So
But seriously, the bar has been raised. If somebody gives you crap, just say one word or two words. Wilkerson Palace.
yeah,
Come on.
I could just redirect trolls to other people.
Seriously, just go talk to April because she's good at it. She's really good at deflecting trolls. Let her take them. Her stadium, the Wilkerson Stadium.
Yeah.
Send them off to their death.
Yeah, right. Off the roof of the Wilkerson Stadium.
Yeah, I'd imagine, more so than anyone that does what we do, it's got to be really difficult for women. And I'd imagine you have to
good
have
lord, yes.
Absolutely.
a thick skin and a really good sort of outlook on this stuff to be able to see it, read it, filter it, and go on with life. Because I'm a big baby with this stuff, but I can't even imagine what it must be like to be a woman and do what we do. It's crazy.
I can't imagine what it must be like to be a woman either.
Well, some regards I can. It's disgusting. That's disgusting, Shannon. Let's move on.
Let's move on.
You're
I
awful.
like where this went. Started with some flooring that Mark found outside of his shop, and we talked about
Movies. Oh, sorry.
I think we should revive the whole Wood Talk weekend idea and just do it at her place.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Well, that
We
was
could
the
get like
problem
100
before.
people in there.
Yeah, that was the trick before. We're like, okay, if we do this weekend thing, are we going to have enough room at my shop? I'm going to have to set up outdoor things to facilitate, getting extra space and workstations. You're right. I mean, that place is totally big enough for a big event like that.
Yeah, I'll bring the zip line.
I'm glad we just invited ourselves.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
She won't mind if we just show up, right?
Just us and the other people that might show up too.
20 or 30 Wood Talk fans. It'll be
Hey, that's how Woodstock happened, man. Come on.
Oh,
how all good grassroots movements work.
Hopefully, seeing like the average woodworker at a conference, hopefully we don't end up with the drunken nudity and mudslides like Woodstock had. So
Yeah.
let's avoid
pretty
that.
much guarantee if Mark's there.
Yeah.
That's
Of
true.
course it is. All right. Anyway, what do you got going on, Matt?
Oh, the usual. Still,
Mm-hmm.
it feels like. So I wanted to, before I talk about what I'm working on, I had this thought I wanted to share. I was putting my son to bed last night. I was waiting for him to fall asleep, and I was just kind of reminiscing, and I was thinking about like how much work it is to produce a guild project, like just in the grand scheme of things. Because I don't like the people that like watch them. They only watch them. They kind of understand there's some work involved, but to give some perspective on this, the high boy, I am 7 months in, 31 videos, so 32 videos. I built a bandsaw mill in 4 months and posted 15 videos about it.
It's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's nuts.
The amount of effort is ridiculous. It's just hard to quantify and compare, but I thought that was a pretty cool comparison.
Yeah.
I was kind of proud of myself sitting there. I had this. I don't really have like these pretty profound moments while I'm sitting there in the dark, waiting for a young child to slip into slumber. But this time I did.
Yeah. That's that is something where if you could find something else to do during that time, like, you love your kids, right? You like to spend time with them, but when you're just waiting for the kid to just close his damn eyes and go to sleep, and if he would close his eyes, it would happen
leave
faster.
before then. He's getting up and running around, and I got to start over again.
Oh, gotta love kids. All right.
It's not worth it.
Oh man. So again, we're derailing. This is not a parenting podcast.
So Mark, what are you saying is you're going to come out in your driveway and there's going to be 2 Cremona kids there,
Yeah.
next to a pile of fiberboard and pallets.
Free kids from my neighbor. How nice. Yeah, good stuff.
What the good use?
All right, well, I guess I'll go. I think
Okay.
Matt's done. Are you done, Matt?
Yeah, high boys
Working on
inside.
High boy. Yeah.
About it.
High boy. Blah, blah,
Waterfall
blah,
tables
blah.
going.
High boy.
I got that going too. I don't know. All kinds of stuff.
That's cool. Well, I don't. I don't have all kinds of stuff going on. In the last week, I cut 3 joints. That's all I've done. I decided to play with the Maloof joint and kind of I did a live YouTube thing on that actually just last night. Was that last night? Yeah, it was last night. And it was actually kind of interesting approaching it from a hand tool perspective. And this is a joint that was designed to be cut with power tools. Like all of the joiner we talk about is like ancient, right? It's thousands of years old, and you can always say, well, this is of course is how it was cut with hand tools because it was cut with hand tools first. This is a joint that was the other way. It was actually designed to be cut with a handheld router. So the great irony of me reverse engineering it and actually like using hand tools to shape the radius curve created by a router was rather interesting. But lots of people asked for it. Lots of people wanted me to cut a Maloof joint. How would you do it by hand? So it was a lot of fun. And I have two Maloof joints now, but no chair. So
that sounds great. So let me ask you, if you were to do this by hand, or if you would look at this joint and think of someone wanting to create something similar, would you have even come close to what that thing looks like, or does it is it completely nonsensical to do that via hand tools?
Oh, so like if I had never heard of the Maloof joint before, or anything
Well,
like
like
that.
yeah, like you're saying, a lot of the matching the radii, to make sure everything fits perfectly. Like there's a matched bit set that we used for this to match the rabbet bit to the roundover. That seems like a really stupid way to do it if you are coming from a hand tool perspective.
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, because what I did was I first cut it square corners, and because my question was, would that look weird? Like with all the soft sculpted lines and stuff, would it look weird to have this sharp inside corner? And I do think it would. I think it would be kind of jarring. Even after you sculpt stuff back, it would just, I don't know, it might work, it might not. So then when you see it curved, it definitely complements the overall kind of design idiom. So I was like, okay, we need to do that. So I laid everything out square and then used the intersections to find my center to scribe a circle. So that in and of itself was like a superfluous extra step. Like in order to find the center point to scribe the circle, I had to lay out a square to find a place to stick the point of the compass into. And then I cut everything out as I normally would, but then had to take the extra step. Now I did say you could have just like used a Forstner bit and like bored out those 2 radius corners. But I just decided to grab a gouge and just kind of like pare my way back because I had a chisel in hand. Why not? But then having to go and round the edges of the leg was totally silly. Like, because then I had to match that. And it wasn't hard. I mean, I just grabbed a block plane and just kind of broke the edge and kind of slowly rounded it over, stuck it in, saw it's a little bit fat here, removed a little bit. And it took, like two or 3 tries maybe until I had a fit. What I was saying is if I did a lot of it, I would probably create a scratch stock to match that radius.
Okay.
Break the edge with a block plane and then just come back with a scratch stock and refine that. So essentially, I'm doing the same thing. I would create a matched scratch stock to match the radius, the female radius that I put under the chair. So it wasn't that unusual. I don't think I would have ever come up with that joint on my own. Like, was it not the iconic Maloof joint? I would have, like, if I said I'm going to build a rocking chair and it's going to be all sculpted and stuff, I probably would end up using some form of tenon. The back corner, I don't know, because you couldn't have tenons on 90-degree faces; they would never go together. But I don't know that I would cut out the back corner. I would probably have done something. I don't know. it's such a specific joint to the man, to the man and to the style of furniture now, and it's so like ingrained into our consciousness of woodworkers. It's iconic. So even thinking of an alternative almost feels sacrilegious. It's like, how dare you? But yeah, I had gotten a little conversation about this on the live session, and I actually had a couple people comment that Sam was the first person to say, I'm not a woodworker, I'm a designer. And you can very clearly see, here's a guy that had a bandsaw and had a handheld router, and that was probably it at the time when he made his first chair. So lemon lemonades. Here's the Maloof joint now, which I wonder, does anybody know what Sam Maloof called that joint? I don't.
Yeah, my joint.
He didn't call it the Maloof joint. He seemed like a pretty humble guy.
He said it's my joint.
It's mine. mine joint. Anyway, enough of that.
Well, that's cool though, and I do think if you squared things off in a lot of those areas, and then you do the sculpting that happens afterwards, I have to imagine it just wouldn't look as organic, right? I think the rounded corners, they really help those they help those transitions a lot, and I think it would lose something.
Yeah, square just looks weird.
Yeah,
it doesn't work.
It's just weird. By the way, anyone watching live, I know we're having problems with the video. You could hear the audio, and the video I can't do anything about it right now. Otherwise, I'm going to screw up the show. So, sorry. My apologies for that.
Screw up the show more.
Yeah, any more. That's good. All right, so let's get to what's new. So just real quick, I was on another podcast, Make or Break podcast, did an interview, and that was released this past week. So if you want to go listen to that, what is it, makeorbreakshow.com, I think it is. I'll put the link in the show notes. I forgot to copy it here. But it was fun. It was a good time.
I'm one of those guys that still uses iTunes, so I don't know where they are.
What's iTunes?
It's in my podcast app.
Never heard of it.
You actually podcast more on other shows than you do on ours.
That's true.
You're right. You are absolutely right. It's I like it better. I just have to sit back and answer questions. I don't have to plan.
That's true. It is easy. Well, speaking of podcasts, there is a new one on the scene. The folks at Popular Woodworking finally have decided to get into the podcasting realm. This new medium of podcast.
Yeah, I figure, you know what? By 2018, you go, you know what? I think it's time. It's this podcasting thing isn't going away. Let's do it.
But major kudos. The first episode is out. The first episode is great. Slightly scripted at the beginning, but that's okay. They got into their groove. It's a great idea because it's a totally different format. It's a storytelling podcast, essentially, very similar to like All Things Considered or some of the other like NPR type podcasts or Serial. If you've watched Serial, watched, listened, whatever. Hasn't everybody seen that now?
I eat cereal.
But it's really good. And if you think about like a woodworking magazine editor, they often are traveling to places. They're often being approached with stories about things. And this is them just kind of sitting around the table telling a story. So I really hope this thing has legs and they can keep it going, because I personally would love to just have story time woodworking related would be kind of fun. So
yeah,
great first show, guys. Loved it.
Well, and I think their intro really said it well. Like if at this point, if we're going to do this, we can't just do another, hey, this is what we're doing and let's answer some questions, because that format has been done a gazillion times at this point.
What?
Yeah, that's what we do.
Apparently.
Is that what we're doing right now?
That's what we do. So I totally agree. My concern though, if I'm going to be, the naysayer here, is that's going to be hard to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like these are busy people who have other things going on. That format's going to be tricky, but if they could pull it off, I will listen.
Hopefully they're just going to pace their release dates. Nobody says you have to do a weekly show. Yeah. In fact, if you remember, podcasts used to be like a monthly thing, right? It used to be like your comic books. They'd come once a month. I don't know who started the whole weekly thing. Of course, there are daily ones now. It was Matt Vanderlist's fault, wasn't it?
Probably. The Daily Matt. And router bit of the month.
But yeah, I mean, hopefully they have thought this through. But then again, these are journalists. Like Schwarz often talks about being a newspaper journalist, like how blogging is easy. One a day, whatever. Like I had to write like 6 columns every 15 minutes as a newspaper guy.
He's prolific for sure.
Maybe they just have that many stories. I don't know. Or maybe they just are already planning on sunsetting. They're just going to do 1 year.
We'll find out, right? How many stories they have.
Yes, we will. It's good, though. Definitely go subscribe and listen to that.
Oh, I can't wait till Mark is a guest on there telling stories.
I have no stories to tell. Nothing anybody wants to hear. Except for that one time with Matt when he tried to make pancakes. That's a pretty good story. It's got nothing to do with trees, though.
Who cares? You call it now. They're going to be on there.
Yeah.
There's a fair amount of cellulose in pancakes. You could. Knowing Matt, he probably felled the tree and then ground it up into a flour.
Well, I mean, where do you think he got the syrup from?
Yeah,
his
that's
own
true.
trees.
See?
So.
It
Okay.
is.
So I've got.
We're going to do a spinoff.
I do have a voicemail. What's new here? We don't get those very often, but Josh Luther has a recommendation for us.
Hey, Mark, Matt, and Shannon. This is Josh from Michigan. Been a long-time listener of the show and the podcast. But I want to tell you guys about someone I found recently on Instagram and YouTube. And he's got a great website. But his name is Andy Rawls. And maybe, Shannon, you've heard of him. But he studied under Paul Sellers. And he's been in woodworking for a long time. I think he started his business in 2012. But I've really enjoyed his videos. They're very peaceful to watch. They're not sped up. You kind of get the feeling that you're in the shop with him, right over his shoulder watching. He does a really good job of showing his projects, and I just want to let you guys know about him. Check him out on andyrawls.com. His last name is spelled Rawls. I've told a couple of other podcasts about this, but he's a really good woodworker, focusing on traditional joinery, and really does a great job. So if you guys check him out, andyrawls.com. He's on Instagram as well as YouTube. So I love the show. Been a long time listener, and thanks for not quitting.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, anybody who wants to go and call other podcasts and tell them about the Wood Whisperer, that'd be great if you could do that for me. Because I don't want to have to do it myself. It's like, hi, I'm calling to recommend the Wood Whisperer at thewoodwhisperer.com. My name is Matt Cremona.
And to be clear, if either Matt or I do that, that doesn't work either. Yeah. Hi, I'm Shannon. I'm on a show when you should really check out this guy Mark, because I'm sure you never heard of him before. And he's good stuff. I like his channel. I
just subscribed to it.
A couple of his things.
It's funny how now it's almost like an oddity in a way when you find a channel that doesn't just make really fast stuff and it's just a casual, here's what I'm doing.
What I was thinking.
Very little in the way of editing. It's just very casual and approachable. And it's like, oh, it's so unique. It's like, well, he's just showing what he's doing. It's like, I like it. I agree. That's a fun.
At the same time, though, it is kind of sad. I actually had lunch today with James Wright from Wood by Wright channel, and he was trying to tell me about a guy that he found on YouTube. And James, when you hear this, you've got to tell me the guy's name because you still can't remember it. But apparently it's some guy that does a lot of hand tool work. And he's an older gentleman who just kind of sets up a camera in the corner and does like 15 minutes of just like one shot. And like, it's really, really interesting stuff because here's a guy with like 50 years of experience. But apparently it's like no one watches this because it doesn't have what is it? Blings and things?
It doesn't have the blings and things. Yeah.
There's no music, there's no multiple shots, there's no, Jay Bates talking to Jay Bates on screen and stuff like that.
That's it. Can't do it.
There's not
Jay
three
Bates talking to himself. Can't watch it.
You don't have 3 jump cuts to complete one sentence.
Right. So it's back to kind of how things were in 2008, and it's a shame if there is some really good information out there like that is getting lost because it doesn't have the Hollywood of it.
Hollywood. Yeah, I agree. But it's out there, so let's share it. Let everybody know about it.
The truth is out there.
The truth is out there. Okay, let's get into voicemails. So Hunter called in, and he just sounds kind of mad.
Hey guys, it's Hunter. I don't like all these long form questions, so here's mine. Why must everyone like the gray manufactured look in the furniture industry right now? How can we start a movement to stop that so we all don't go nuts? Please help me. Goodbye. I know it's a family show. I'm sorry I said nuts.
That was good. Nuts. Any advice for Hunter?
Like the reclaimed look, like the weathered gray, or like painted gray?
I don't pay attention enough because I have no idea.
I don't know for sure. I know in Ava's room, her whole little bedroom set that we got when she was a baby is that sort of almost like a whitewash gray color. So it's not weathered. It's just gray.
I think it's just a move towards like totally neutral.
Shabby chic neutral.
Yeah, if you go too bright, then like it only fits in certain areas. So in order to appeal to the greatest market, in order to sell the biggest number of widgets, you make it like super gray. But I mean, this has been going on for a while. Like Crate and Barrel and Pottery Barn have been nothing but white and gray since like I was in college.
Yeah.
Because I used to make fun of my sister-in-law because her house was like it was just white and gray. It's like you'd bump into the sofa because it blended perfectly into the wall. You didn't know it was there. It's a white carpet, white
Nothing wrong with
sofa,
that.
white wall. It's like Calvin Klein's house or something, which is just terrible.
Well, I think with all the reclaimed stuff too, lump that into this gray category, and that's a lot of gray. But is it a problem? Do we have to fix this?
No, you have the power to fix it. Make your own vibrant, bright, and striking furniture. Think of it this way: your furniture will stand out better in a room with all the gray stuff.
Yes.
Your furniture is automatically the focal point. You have the power.
Use more Bubinga.
Bubinga.
All right, so we've determined it's not a problem. So let's.
Is that what we did?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe that's what the conclusion here is. Okay, so the last one, I think. What do I have here? Is that from Paul? No, that's later on. No, that's now.
That's
Great.
Yeah.
Voicemail from Paul, and Paul has a great radio voice. If Paul does not work in radio or some sort of voice talent, I will eat my hat. I don't have a hat, so it's going to be a quick meal. But let me know, Paul. I'm really curious.
Hey, Mark, Shannon, and Matt. Love the show. I've been a long-time listener. This is Paul Stone from Nashville, Tennessee. I've heard you say multiple times that getting inspiration from woodworking really involves just looking at other pieces of woodworking. So my wife and I just planned a vacation to Europe. We've never been, and we're going to go to London, then we're going to go to Scotland, and also to Dublin, Ireland. I think this is a perfect time to hijack the vacation and make my wife go to completely boring woodworking places. I wanted to ask, if you guys were going on this trip, where would you go, or who would you see that involved woodworking? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks so much for not quitting, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks.
Right? Am I like, he sounds like he probably does a country music.
Absolutely, Mark.
Country music morning show, right?
He's definitely on a morning show.
I
It's the morning
I just-
zoo.
I just had the
WJZZ.
realization how like poor our voices are.
Oh, we suck, man. We suck. We're no Paul Stone. I'll tell you that much.
Even the name.
Right?
This is Paul Stone.
Coming at
It's
you.
the morning.
This is Paul Stone, and coming up next is Carrie Underwood. All right.
I don't know that. Yeah. I think that would work.
Anyway, what was this question? Totally distracted. Oh,
I would go and see Richard Maguire in England. If I were going to be in England, I would definitely call Richard Maguire, otherwise known as the English Woodworker, just because his place looks cool and he's a cool dude and I love his accent. So I would just like want to hang out with him for a day.
yeah.
And then there would be any number of museums and castles. There's all kinds of cool furniture in some of those old castles and
Sure.
great museums. London has a whole like plane maker row and like the old cabinet maker rows in London that are really fun to visit. And I believe Dublin has a similar quarter. So there's just cool stuff, man. But Richard would be at the top of my list.
Yeah, well, Matt, you were our resident world traveler recently.
Oh yeah.
Robin
Yeah.
Wood, I'd go see him too. I don't know why Matt just made me think of Robin Wood because he was pole turning, I guess.
Maybe. If you're into it, I would stop by the place that I was at, the Western Arboretum. It's a pretty incredible place. You can see a whole bunch of like actual trees that are alive, and if you look hard enough, you can find a bunch of ones that have been killed and are sitting there as logs, which are just massive. There's a lot of history in the trees that are there. That Arboretum's been there for a few hundred years. So like the trees you're walking around looking at were planted by people in the 1800s, which is pretty cool. Then there's also the green woodworking classes there as well. You can kind of pop into. Even if you're not taking the class, you can always stop in because it's open, and you can mock the students if you're into that.
Look at you. Like that.
Get you in your pole lathe.
There was that like skywalk thing that we were on before. Can you like walk over the students and like drop things on them?
It's
Not
you
that
could you could probably throw things at them. You're not directly over them, but you could probably get them pretty good with a decent toss.
Okay. Good to know.
Nice. That sounds good. You know what? If I were there, I would just go see my family. I have a lot of family in Europe, oddly enough. And I would.
Yeah, you might get in trouble if you didn't.
Yeah, I mean, while I'm there, you figure you may as well. So if you want to send us a voicemail, just like all those folks did, you can do that using your voice memo app on your phone and just send that to woodtalkonline@gmail.com and we will play it on the show. So I think we should get into our email. And first one here is from Chris Levno. He says, I just picked up a Latina HD 16 LT bandsaw. That's what he wrote. It is a Latina HD 16 LT bandsaw.
All right.
Would you like to resaw with my Guatemalaness?
Well, I wonder if she like yells at you every time you start using it. She gets mad at you. Okay. The ceramic guides work good, but I need new blades. So obviously I'm joking here. He's talking about the Laguna. So he needs a new blade. Ceramic guides are on it. So he wants to know, should I leave the ceramic guides there, or would an upgrade to Carter and possibly Carter blades be a good choice? So just offering a little bit of perspective on this, because I have actually used Carter's blades recently. I'm really happy with them. And for me, I have a very difficult time comparing blades unless I had like a side-by-side bunch of saws set up with different blades, but it's the same saw and the same material, and then I could do the side-by-side and then see how long they last before they dull. It's really hard for me to gain perspective on that. But what I can say is that the Carters are cutting as well as any blade I've ever had on that tool. So that's a positive endorsement. So if it's a good price and you like the sizes and the configurations, then go for Carter. As far as the guides go, I mean, a lot of the higher end, decent bandsaws these days come with ball bearing guides anyway. If yours have the guide blocks, I do think you're looking at a pretty substantial upgrade from a block to the bearing guide system. I didn't notice a big change when I went to Carter because I already had bearings on there. So these are just better bearings, but the system still works well. Maybe it's a little quieter. It's, again, hard to quantify unless I have these two things side by side. But I do think if you have ceramic guides, you could definitely get a nice little upgrade there. Not totally essential. Plenty of people get by just with, cool blocks and things like that. But, it's a nice upgrade if you're in the market and just looking to soup up that bandsaw. So I say go for it. And that's all I have to say about that.
Very cool. All right, next one is from Bobby. It says, hey guys, love the show for the entertainment and knowledge. It's great. It's a great way to spend shop time. For some reason, I was expecting that to be like more incredible of a sentence. Anyway, I have a full shop, and I'm looking to get it turning in the near future. I was thinking of going for the larger lathes in the $1,000 to $1,500 price range in the future. The question is, what tools are absolutely required to turn bowls and small lathe projects? I have no lathe experience. I wanted to see if it's worth going straight for a larger lathe or slowly by stepping up. I know there are a lot of different turning tools, and I was looking for a little insight on a good beginner set. So as far as a lathe goes, like the one little like sentence or phrase that always stuck with me on the lathe was, you can turn small stuff on a big lathe. Can't really do the other way around. You can't turn big stuff on a small lathe. It just doesn't work, or doesn't even fit. So if you want to turn bowls or bigger things, you already have that as something you want to do, you're pretty much going to be going into the larger lathe, which if you have the room for it, is probably going to be a little more fun to use. It's going to be heavier, so there's going to be a lot less vibration. You can turn things that are out of balance a little faster and kind of get through that imbalance a little quicker, especially if you're turning a rough bowl. As far as tooling goes, so you really have like the two different paths you can take. You can either go with a carbide or you can go with traditional tools. I'm not super up on the pricing on the carbide tools, but I do know like the easy wood tool pricing. So if you're going to go with a traditional set of tools and like a grinder and a sharpening setup, you're going to be like at the same cost as like two of the easy wood tool tools, pretty much, or like right around there. I've had a lot of success with my like beginner, whatever you want to call them, like budget, I guess, traditional tools. You get like a set of 5 or 6 for like $60 to $80. Like they all look the same. They all have different brands. They're all rebranded. They're probably made in the same factory somewhere, but they have like a different decal on them for a different name. If you have those and like a slow speed grinder and you have a decent sharpening setup, maybe things get a little duller a little quicker, but they're not that expensive, and sharpening them a little more often is good practice. I've gotten by pretty well with just those over the years. And if you didn't want to get a whole set of things, if you just wanted to turn bowls, for instance, really all you need to do that is like a bowl gouge and maybe a skew chisel or a parting tool or something to make your tenon for your holding thing, which if you're not already including a chuck in your initial lathe purchase, you probably want to include that as well if you're going to be turning bowls especially. So I guess it depends on what direction you want to go in. I just like the traditional tools because they're, in my opinion, a little more fun. That's about it.
Good to know.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good definitive answer.
Was it though? But was
I
it?
don't know. I was just trying to pump you up a little.
Maybe
This
it was.
is from Michael. He says, I'm carving green spoons from apple and maple trees, but sometimes that's a big spoon out of the whole tree. But sometimes I'll get an area when doing the finish cut where the grain tears up some and I can't seem to get satisfactory results. Any suggestions on good resources to learn? I like that. So he doesn't want me to answer the question. He wants me to point him somewhere where he can learn. That's easy. Jared Stonedahl's video on spoon carving, I think, is the best one that I've seen. Very, very good. Very comprehensive. I think without a little bit more information, it's a little hard to answer exactly where the tearing is coming from, other than if you're doing finish cuts, a lot of times those little tearing areas can be spots where the grain is coming together. Like say you're down in the bottom of the bowl of the spoon. As you approach the bottom of the bowl, you're working with the grain. And as you move just past the center line to the upslope, you're moving against the grain. So you get that spot where the fibers come together and, a half a nanometer one way or another is going to start to lift fibers up. So the solution there is to work across the grain. First of all, strop your tool, do whatever you do to get the super, super razor sharp edge for that final finishing cut, and focus on working across the grain where you've got those tearing areas, because sometimes there's just no way to do it. If you get lucky, you can make that cut just right and stop the cut just right so that it doesn't start lifting fibers up on the other way. But then there's also some instances where maybe that wood that if you just split it out of a tree, maybe it's still a little bit green, too green. For what you're trying to do. And maybe you just want to set it aside for a day and come back and do your final finishing cuts where things have dried out and maybe hardened up a little bit, because the green stuff is really soft. And as we know, the softer the wood, the more it can crush, more it wants to tear, the sharper the tool you need. So if you're feeling like you're getting a sharp edge, it might just be time to just set it aside for a day and come back, and you'll at least get a harder outer crust on it that may be a little bit easier to clean up. But I urge you to take a look at the grain, and you probably will find that you're in one of those weird transition points, and working across the grain will fix it.
Nice. I like a good, hard, almost burnt crust.
Yes, absolutely. Especially when it's nice and gooey and warm just beyond the crust.
Oh, Nicole made a pot pie the other day. Holy crap. So here's the hint. You ready? You get a rotisserie chicken, like from Sam's Club, Costco, Walmart, wherever you get these stupid things that are pumped full of crap, but they're delicious. And then you take the leftovers, right? And you chop that stuff up and you make a chicken pot pie. And it's fantastic. I'll have Nicole send you the recipe if anyone's interested. All right, so if you enjoyed the show, you can go over to iTunes or any podcast aggregator app type thing, and if you could leave us a review, we'd always appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. You can also support the show by heading over to Patreon, patreon.com/woodtalk, or get yourself a Wood Talk t-shirt at twwstore.com. And Shannon, why don't you give them all the contact info, and we will get out of here.
Okay. There are many ways in which you can reach out to us and give us kickback, give us what's new stuff, ask us questions. The easiest way is to use your voice memo app on your fancy smartphone, record your question or whatever it is, and email it to woodtalkonline@gmail.com. Or just use our contact form at woodtalkshow.com/contact. And you can type it out there and, type with an accent, though. If you type with an accent, it will get read on the show much more readily.
Yeah, totally.
And then you can always find us to talk to us, chat at us, whatever, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that fun stuff. We are at Wood Talk Show.
Yay!
Woo. Yay!
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody, and we will catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
All right. So I don't know what the hell's going on with the video. It's driving me nuts. I can make my video go. It's the capture of like the window capture of Skype that just is pooping out on me. So
Well, I had to fiddle with my audio video settings again when I logged into Skype. So maybe you had to. Didn't that fix it last time?
No, this is a different issue.
Okay.
It's a different one this
'Cause
time.
It defaulted back to system audio output on me again, and I had to like change it back to my headphones.
Yeah, it's not that. It's purely what is Wirecast grabbing, and
right.
it freezes. So it grabs the video for a couple of seconds, but as soon as I click on any other window on my screen, it goes away. Well, it either goes away or it just freezes you guys, and mine is still going, but yours isn't. So
Is that why I'm so cold?
yes, you're frozen.
That's it.
Okie dokie.
Whew.
So let's do show number 2, huh?
Okey-dokey.
Everything okay with that one? I'm gonna have to go refill my tea.
Okay.
Second show is 426. We don't have Brusso on this one. Okay.
Did you guys want to pick a question for this one too? I normally don't.
I think we have enough here, don't you?
We have enough.
We usually do.
We got a voicemail. I picked one, Shannon picked one, and 2 co-answers. So I think that'll be good. All right.
All right.
I'm going to go get some tea. I'll be right back. You guys want to go pee? Maybe go
Together?
You?
make a quick poopy.
Oh, seems like something that's not necessary.
What crossing the streams?
Exactly.
Exactly that. Yes.
You know what? My son, every time I'm taking a pee and he hears it, he runs in there and has a pee race with me. And he goes, is the funniest thing. So he's peeing and he always beats me because he's got a bladder this big. And he's like, aha. He goes, I always win because I have a small penis.
That's why.
That's what he said.
Oh,
Well, that's not
So
quite
this
the
is-
reason,
this
buddy.
is what I have to look forward to when my kids are potty trained.
Yeah.
Never being able to pee in peace.
Oh, man. Oh, dude. It
just think of how wonderful that story will be when he's 18 and he's got his girlfriend home. You know what Mateo used to do? His favorite line.
Yeah.
And it's still true today.
Totally. No, guys, we didn't forget to turn the stream off. This is what we usually do between shows. But we'll be. I'll be back after I get a tea, and we'll
Speaking of
start
stream.
You might want to rephrase the stream.
crossing the
word.
streams. Okay, I'll be back.
Yeah. Looking forward to that, huh, Matt? Gonna be fun.
At least I'll be changing diapers or like picking up accidents.
I hope not. That comes later. That's your kids' jobs when you get old.
Oh, good. Holy crap.
There was some sort of software update on my forum, and now it's like not rendering videos properly anymore. I swear. I spend more time doing technical, like coding bug fixes than I do woodworking anymore. It's annoying.
Well, yeah.
Very-
You didn't think all you did all the time was woodworking?
I haven't done
that's what
just
people think.
woodworking in like 8 years. I think the woodworking has been like the 30% amount for 8 or 9 years now.
That sounds about right. I mean, I'm out in the shop all day, every day. I never step foot in the house or sit at my desk, ever.
Yeah, see, that's what happens when you move your computer to the shop. You're out in the shop all day. Yeah, that's why I do wood talk from the shop now, because it just makes me feel good to get into the shop.
I'm actually out here.
At least I can guarantee like 2 hours every other week that I'm out here. Look around, look at all the stuff that I want to do that don't have time to do. Yeah, it's good.
All right, I went back to the Frozen picture because I'm tired of looking at my face.
Oh, great. A different Frozen picture.
Yep, you guys look good. You're a little more serious in this one.
Oh, yeah.
You're both
Let it
very
go.
contemplative.
Let it go. Sorry, Frozen, and I started singing.
That's good.
No.
Okay, so Jay's question is queued up. Let me get the second wood talk thing queued up. What are we on? 426. Okie dokie, here we go.
Oh, we're doing this again, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Woo!
Double your pleasure.
I'm going for triple, I think.
Triple your pleasure. All right, here we go.
Welcome to Wood Talk. Now here are three guys who think true grit starts at 220. Mark, Shannon, and
Another
Matt.
good one.
They're all good, man. They're all good. All right, it's Wood Talk number 426 for February 12th, 2018. On today's show, we're talking about painting furniture, our favorite hand tools, the best tool for rabbeting, an alternative to latex paint, and the best first hand plane. So this is our show where we jump right into it.
Paint?
What's that?
Hand tools and paint?
That kind of would have summed it up a little bit better. Yeah. It's pretty much what we're going to talk about today.
Okay.
If we're being honest.
Hit it, Mark.
Yeah, so we jump right into the good stuff. Let's get to the first email from Billy. Billy Newton. That's remember
Newton.
him? He's the
Wayne's brother.
He's the off Broadway or off strip entertainer in Vegas. Billy Newton.
That's right.
So he says, gentlemen, bit of a kickback and a question first. Everyone knows that the off the Vegas strip stuff is where the trendy shows are. It's like off Broadway, just a little bit seedier. But for my question, I've been commissioned by my 6-year-old daughter to build a nightstand. This picky client has demanded that it be painted teal. I hate painting wood because I suck at it. It never seems uniform and smooth, regardless of the quality of the paint that I buy. I have some other household projects coming up, like new doors and trim. I'm trying to decide if I should purchase a paint sprayer to handle these projects or dive into the world of tinted cat lacquer. I have no spraying experience. I have a large compressor, so I can buy a conversion gun if I choose the latter route. Appreciate the help. All right, so I do not like paint. Just don't like it. I'm where you are. I don't get great results with it. It's something I haven't put enough time in with it to get really good. So you can get good results. I just don't. So I try to avoid it at all costs. So when I have to paint something or do something that has kind of the appearance of paint, I basically do what you're sort of hinting at, is going with some kind of a tinted lacquer. And if you put pigment into lacquer, you can get this sort of painted effect. But you really have the joy of using lacquer because now you could sand between coats. Once you get the build that you're looking for, you could then clear coat it with the same material, so it's all very compatible. And I just find it so much easier to work with. And I've done a few, quote unquote painted projects in the past. And basically, one of them was like a little kid's chair. This woman wanted it refinished and she wanted it painted pure white. So I basically got white UTC pigment and put a couple tablespoons of that into a quart of lacquer and mixed it all up. You got to keep mixing it because it's pigment. It's going to settle out. And just kept spraying layers and layers. And it would build up this very rich, thick, almost piano-style finish. And then you could top coat it to protect the color layers. So that would be my recommendation. It sounds like what you're wanting to do. So I would take that route. To me, for a woodworker, someone who's used to clear finishes, it's definitely less intimidating, and it will behave in a way that you expect it to. So that would be my recommendation. Thank you and good night, everyone.
Good. I like that. If you happen to notice how similar the question that you're answering and the question I'm answering are?
I didn't even look at it.
Yeah, so Nick says, when painting furniture, it's a little bit different. Do you sand between top coats? Obviously, we need to sand after the primer. Obviously. I didn't know that was obvious. Also, if you apply a polyurethane top layer, do you have to use water-soluble poly if you used a water-based paint, for example, latex? So as kind of an offshoot to Billy's question, I actually do have a fair amount of experience painting furniture because my wife loves painted furniture, and so does her whole family.
Oh,
so
Heather.
I often end up painting stuff. What I found is kind of like what Mark is saying, where you go with a clear coat but then add pigment to it. And you'll actually find that there's some really nice pigments out there. Lockwood dyes, I know I've gotten them at Tools for Working Wood. Even whatchamacallit, Transtint has some great stuff in colors, and not just like, walnut or vintage cherry, like red and blue and
primary
green.
Colors.
Really intense, colors. We learned about them in 5th grade, I think, right? So at least I did. So you can use those to create a very almost opaque top-coated finish. Not top-coated. I almost said opaque clear coat finish. And that doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't make any no sense at all.
That makes no sense whatsoever. Typical wood clear finish, but now it's not. It's opaque. kind of like a tinted lacquer. That works pretty well. I've also heard very recently, because we just talked about this on a recent show, that Osmo, you can add one of their products already has some tint to it, and you can add quite a bit to that. And of course, you've got that like wax and hard wax look, so you get that nice, easily polishable surface, and you can add tint to that. But the other thing that works is to take a paint and thin it. I've had, and this is, I think, where milk paint has gotten a lot of popularity lately, because you're mixing yourself, so you can change the viscosity of it just by the amount of water you're adding to it. It may require more coats in order to get an opaque look to it, but it lays down really thin. The more dilute it is, the more it's going to kind of self-level, and you're not going to have as much issues with sanding between coats and stuff. So, but you can do that with a regular household paint. There are thinners you can buy. You can just use water, and you can. That's what I've done when I've sprayed paint before, like latex out of the can, just way too thick unless you've got like a 3-inch needle. I don't know what the size of the needle is.
A garden hose.
Yeah, garden hose needle. So you have to thin that out anyway, and it lays down really, really well. But you absolutely do want to sand between coats. But you don't have to get like super aggressive here. I grab 600 grit and I sand it down, and it's just enough to kind of knock back any fuzzies, knock back any inconsistencies. But if the coat of the paint, whatever it is thinned enough, it's already doing a little bit of leveling anyway. So I equate it to like using a heavier, like a non-wipe-on polyurethane. It's definitely going to put on a heavy coat, but it's going to flow out better than your average paint would. That sanding between coats is just enough to kind of mellow out any hard edges or anything like that you've got. But I do find the most important thing is to apply that clear coat, whatever it is, varnish, polyurethane, whatever, over top of the paint, because it kind of locks it in. It adds a little bit of sheen to the surface, and it's a protective coat. So if you're like bumping into it, you're not scratching the paint or anything like that. Yes, you could use water-based over top of it. I tend to use like polyacrylic for that. It's a water-based version. I think it's a Minwax product, because it's already got a little bit of that, what do they call it, the water white look to it. So it tends to not affect the color as much as something like a polyurethane, which is going to add a little bit of an amber color to it. But you can do that. You just want to make sure that the paint has cured properly. The oil in the polyurethane is not like it's going to, be like polarized magnets and jump off the surface. It will bond just fine, because ideally the water has evaporated out of the paint, and that's why there's pigment left over, right? Because paint is just water-borne, and the pigment is just the dirt that's left on the surface after the water washes out. That's what it is, right?
The colored
Pigment is
dirt.
just dirt. It's just ground up, really fine dirt. If you've let it dry properly and give it a time to cure, there's no problem with using an oil base over top of it. But just be aware that an oil-based finish, depending on what it is, it may end up changing the color a little bit. So water-based finishes tend to dry a little bit truer to color. That's why I stick with water-based. Dries fast too.
Chances are it's going to actually make it look like crap. Like if you like the color that you've achieved with that latex and then you put oil-based finish on top, it's going to look bad. Especially if you did maybe white. It just turns into a nasty yellow color.
Turns into old yellow white.
Yeah, it's no longer white.
But for that matter, go with a latex, or not, sorry, latex. I just read that. A lacquer. When you look at a lot of like nice painted furniture, high-end painted furniture, they're either using a tinted lacquer, or a lot of times because they want the faster build, they're spraying on some sort of paint and then doing a top coat of clear lacquer. Or they did tinted lacquer and then a top coat of clear lacquer over top of that, because it's probably cheaper. Easier to just use the last couple of coats, because lacquer's great, lays down really nice, leaves a nice hard surface. It all depends on how you're using it, right? What kind of abuse it's going to get. But lacquer, that stuff is tough, man.
Lacquer.
So make your life even easier and skip the polyurethane and go with lacquer.
And test on scrap. Always test on scrap with this stuff.
Always test.
All right, so we got a voicemail question here from Jay regarding choices for rabbeting, best tools for rabbeting.
Hi guys, my name is Jay Abramovitz. I'm relatively new to hand tool woodworking, and the next step in my journey is rabbeting. I'm currently looking at projects with smaller scale rabbets, but I hope to one day move up to larger casework. I'm trying to decide whether to go with the Lie-Nielsen 140 skew block plane or the Veritas skew rabbet plane. It seems like the Lie-Nielsen would be able to multitask as a regular block plane, which I don't currently own, in addition to covering some basic rabbeting tasks. The downside is that it doesn't have as much heft as the Veritas, is trickier to set up, and it doesn't have a depth stop. On the other hand, the Veritas would handle any scale rabbeting task, but is a one-trick pony. Any advice? And thank you for your terrific show and everything you guys do for the woodworking community.
All right. Who wants to take that?
This seems like it's for you, Mark.
That's good.
I can take this, but he may not like my answer.
Table saw.
It's super secret option number 3. Neither of those planes. I'll caveat that by saying both of those planes would work fine if you put a gun to my head and said pick one. I would go with a Lie-Nielsen because of the utility and because the Veritas skew rabbet plane is just finicky. It can be a little bit of a pain to set up. The first thing I will tell you, which leads to option number 3, is depth stops on planes like this are a suggestion. There are you can set a depth stop, and there are so many ways that you can go deeper than the depth stop. There's so many technique issues, the way you hold the plane, the way you whether you do plane pinky out or pinky down, you can change the depth of that. So if you're relying on the depth stop to tell you stop now, you're at a 1/4 inch, I guarantee you could still manage to get a shaving. If you try hard enough, you could still get a shaving. And if you check out, you'll end up going deeper than that. So I use the depth stop merely as a suggestion. It tells me, you can see as I'm planing, is there a gap between the depth stop and my board? And, you plane, you can kind of check out until that gap starts to disappear. And then you can start to pay attention. You can, as you get more experience with these planes, you can start to feel that depth stop a little bit better, learn how to kind of tweak your hands a little bit so the depth stop is riding properly. But even then, you can still manage to go below those. Router planes are the same way. So don't put so much emphasis on whether or not it has a depth stop or not, because it's not a silver bullet solution for you. So what I actually recommend, and especially if you're just getting into this, is go with a good old-fashioned wooden rabbet plane. Those standard side escapement planes, you can find them on eBay, find them in antique stores. Go to hyperkitten.com to Josh Clark, email him. He's probably got 7 of them. And they're stupid simple. It's a blade, a wedge, and a block of wood. And they are so much easier to learn to use because they're taller. The little higher center of gravity of them allows you to make a much squarer rabbet. And that's really the drawback of the Lie-Nielsen block plane, because it's such a low profile plane. Often people end up with a slanted floor to that. The plane itself is wider than most of the rabbets you're going to cut, so invariably you end up slanting down and out. The Veritas can be the same way. You also find that with rabbets, the fence, the depth stop, all the other stuff just kind of gets in the way. With a wooden rabbet plane and a marking gauge, you can put a marking line on a board. You can tilt that wooden rabbet plane so just the corner of the blade is riding in the knife line, and you can start that rabbet with no fence at all. It's super fast and easy to do, and it's just, to me, it's a more ergonomic. It makes a lot more sense than all of the other stuff that's gone into some of these other planes, and it's a heck of a lot faster to do it. And the reason I say this is most of those planes can be had for like $20, $30. I've bought them for cheaper than that have required a little bit more restoration, but I guarantee you, if you contact one of the reputable dealers, like I said with Josh Clark or Jim Bodie Tools, there's a bunch more, and they're all eluding me right now. But you can get one that doesn't even need any restoration work. Maybe just needs a little bit of sharpening, and it's just so much easier because there's just fewer moving parts. And if you decide, okay, this is kind of good, I want to maybe step up my game and add in a fence, because the Veritas plane adds more functionality with some other things, the Lie-Nielsen block plane likewise. But that's a higher sticker price on those, right? It'd be a lot easier to jump into this for $20, $30. If you really want to see how this is done, I've got like 3 videos on my YouTube channel just on making rabbets with these planes, and I can show you, you can see how I do it with a knife line and a wooden rabbet plane. It's just, to put it this way, I don't even use those other planes anymore. I have both of them, and they don't get used anymore in favor of the wooden rabbet plane. It's simpler and easier to use.
Cool. Sounds good.
Cheaper.
All right. Well, speaking of hand tools, we're going to keep this hand tool train moving here.
More paint.
Yes, definitely more paint.
Yay, paint.
So Ben Ackenborg, he loves when I do that. He says, "What are your favorite hand tools?" I put together a set of 4 RU rasps. They are quickly becoming one of my favorite tools to use, simply for the ease of use. You never need to worry about if your blade is sharpened at the right angle. They just work. I also truly enjoy my low-angle jack and am becoming a better user of it, but these rasps have totally changed my viewpoint on hand shaping things. So this is a very general question. Favorite hand tools, Matt? What's your favorite?
Ah, there's just so many.
So hard to choose. Well, it's gonna be harder for Shannon, I think. He's
Yeah, probably. I'm thinking probably like card scrapers and chisels. We have 2?
sure.
Plural,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you can
Hand
go with a
tools?
couple.
Yeah, I'm gonna go card scrapers and chisels, I think.
Okay.
I think because I use those things like the most, and they're very, very versatile.
Mm-hmm.
You can use them for a lot of things, and they're both kind of like freehand tools. So you can play pretty fast and loose with them, or you can be a little more precise with them.
Loosey-goosey.
Yeah, loosey goosey style. I don't know. I think especially with chisels, like those are some really powerful tools that take some actual like muscle memory and dactility to use them properly. And I think being able to train yourself and your body to be able to use those well is kind of a fun skill to learn and acquire over time.
Did you just make up a word? Dactyly?
Dactyly?
I thought he said dactyly.
Dactyly. Yeah, he did.
Now you're just making stuff up, Matt. This
Isn't
show
that what we do here?
This show is about facts, man.
I thought it was like a make it up and don't worry about
You
it.
can't
kind of
just make up
situation.
dactylilies. Oh man. For me, the funny thing is, this whole hybrid woodworking thing is actually just get rid of the hand tools I hate, only keep the ones I like, and find other ways to do the other stuff with power tools. Right? So pretty much all of the hand tools that I have in my shop are ones that I find enjoyable to use. So he mentioned some of them. The rasps are great. I like my low angle jack. Love chisels. I enjoy using them. Some of my hand saws are fun to play with. But if I really don't like the hand tool, it's not going to stay in the shop, and I'm going to find some other way to get that job done. It's an optional thing for me,
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I went through a major, I call it an optimization, but let's just put it for what it is, getting rid of stuff.
Yeah.
And, if it was one that didn't get a lot of use, it just didn't stay around. If asked this question before I answer the last one, I would say my wooden rabbet plane, because it gets used all the time. But we already know that, and Matt took chisels, and that's really probably my favorite. So, wow.
Mark took chisels too.
Yeah, I did.
That's true.
I did.
But Mark's totally unoriginal. I'm used to that.
Yes, I just copy what everyone else does.
Yeah, and I mean, how much do you pay attention to a hybrid woodworker when it
right.
comes to what's your favorite hand tool, right?
Anyone who even says that word should be dismissed immediately.
Right. So I don't know. I mean, choosing one, it would probably have to be one of my saws, probably my sash saw. It gets used the most. It's used just about every single day, every single project. It's the perfect mixture of like coarse saw that gets work done fast, but also precise enough that I could cut dovetails with it. Mm-hmm. And it's got a pretty teak handle that I sent to Mark to have it, Mark Harrell at Bad Axe.
I was gonna be like, I do not recall this at all.
I don't remember. I blacked out. So, yeah. If really pressed, it would have to be a wooden rabbet plane, just in case, they're still listening. Jay, best tool for rabbeting. It's my favorite. But my saws, got to be saws. Mm-hmm. I got enough saws, so they should be my favorite.
I'm gonna give a little love to the shoulder plane. I've got the large Veritas shoulder plane.
You already went.
No, I'm going again.
No.
I've got the record button in front of me, which means I control
now we're just going to start a fight. You start bringing up those abominations.
His shoulder plane is fantastic.
Shoulder plane's useless.
It's so heavy and so like beefy, and you got to have big hands to handle it. It's great. I like it. All right. You guys are no fun.
RenaissanceWoodworker.com/shoulder plane, and you'll see my rant on that.
I don't watch your show, so I cannot do that.
Well, actually, this is actually print. This is an actual blog post.
You wrote something? What?
Yeah, I know.
What a waste of time. No one reads that.
Definitely no one's read that.
Is a shoulder better than a hand?
Hand plane, shoulder plane.
Get it? Nobody? Okay.
No.
Stupid.
That is dumb.
Yeah, I know.
Stupid. Go write an article about it.
Where's the elbow plane?
The elbow plane. That's what I need. Need me a good elbow plane. Okay, so John Schmidt, it's our last question we have for today. He says, I guess this is a question for the better person among us and maybe the hairy giggler, since Mark is too busy writing Poops McDomino, a joinery story. Would you recommend, this really is all hand tools today, a low-angle jack plane as the first hand plane to purchase, or would some other type of plane be better as the first purchase? Thanks for not quitting yet. So low-angle jack. Whoops, hit my phone, sorry. Low-angle jack. First hand plane? What do you think?
I hate this question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The answer is it depends.
Because we don't know anything about what he wants to do, where he wants to go, and what he already has.
Well, here's the thing. Are you going to be doing all hand tool work? Are you going to be a hybrid guy? Put more succinctly, how will you be milling your boards? Mm-hmm. Like, if you're going to use machines to mill your boards, then no. A low-angle jack is not the best idea. Buy a smoothing plane. A smoothing plane is going to cut down on sanding. It might not eliminate sanding, but it's also small enough, easy enough to handle. You could break edges with it. You can do all kinds of smaller tasks with it, but it will most definitely cut down on sanding and give you really nice surfaces. Low-angle jack could definitely do all that, but it's a bigger plane. It's overkill in many cases. The low-angle jack is exactly that. It's a jack of all trades. It can do milling, it can do, some joinery work, it can do smoothing work. But as a smoother, it's ineffective. It's too long. It rides over the hills and valleys too much. So if you're milling your boards with a machine and you just want to take those mill marks off, get a smoothing plane. But if you're wanting to do more milling work, then absolutely, I would say go with a low-angle jack. It's the best place to start.
Very good.
Sorry,
I
just kind of took that question and ran with it.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I love I love my low angle jack. It's a fantastic tool. It's for the style of woodworking I do, it serves pretty much all of my needs. I very rarely, other than my block plane, very rarely reach for anything else. Joinery planes and my block plane are really about it. So for me personally, it's fantastic.
I'm not enamored by it, at all.
I think I remember you saying this.
Yeah, I got it probably like a year ago.
Yeah.
Just to see what it was like mostly, and I don't really ever use. I don't like using it, at all. I don't like that it doesn't have your lateral and depth adjuster. It has depth adjuster. The lateral adjust. I don't like that.
I think you got a bad one if it doesn't have a depth adjuster.
Yeah.
You might want to send that back.
They left that part off.
That's why you don't like it.
It just doesn't work. It never cuts.
You mean the blade's not supposed to be epoxied to the sole? What?
So wait, can't you just move it back and forth? What's your problem?
I like having the lever. I really like traditional, not true, other, whatever. Oh my gosh, my brain.
Bevel down.
There we go. Oh my gosh.
Planes with frogs.
It's late in the day. Yes, planes with frogs. I like frogs quite a bit. I especially hate the hand position on the tote. I hate it because there's no frog to put your finger on. Your hand's just dangling up in the air. It just feels so unnatural. And it's just too big.
You put your fingers up on the body. It's fine. Or you could even get it. Come on, man.
I need my index finger up in the air.
Little fingers. Look at his hands.
Look at these things.
Little fingers.
That's right. Tiny hands. I forgot about the tiny hands.
But
I'm with you, Matt. I get you. The hand positioning is wrong. Yeah, it feels weird.
It just feels. Yeah. And for the length of it and the things that I do, I've never wanted more than a number 4. I've never needed more than number 4 for just taking down an edge or just a little cleanup work or just about any other task. I'll reach for number 4. Even a block plane, I rarely use those as well. Except now that I have them, I'm because I'm lazy, I can hold the part and plane at the same time. Yes. I have to break an edge or something. But otherwise, you could just clamp the work in your vise and just use a number 4 for anything. You could use a block plane for the most part.
Well, and you know what? To be fair, I probably, if I only had a number 4, for the amount of things I do with that plane, I probably would be just as happy with a number 4. You know what I mean? But like, I don't know, maybe like a low angle smoother would, like what is it? The Lee-Nielsen 62, something like that. I have one of those. I do like the versatility of different blades and different angles of attack. So I do like that low angle aspect, but having a slightly shorter, sole on there probably wouldn't make a huge difference for what I do.
Yeah. See, and this is the evolution side of things. If you're just getting into this, there's something to be said about a utilitarian plane that can do a bunch of different stuff. But at my point in woodworking, I don't want jack of all trades tools. I want specialized tools. I want to. I get into this question all the time about saws because people are constantly asking about, do I go with this hybrid saw filing? And I'm like, no. If I'm going to saw a tenon, I'm going to use a saw that's specifically designed to cut a tenon. Cuts it faster, cuts it more accurately because it's designed to do that. Mm-hmm. If you go with a hybrid filing, you're essentially reducing the effectiveness of the tenon cut, and you're trying to stretch it and make it do more, making it be, jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah,
so
it's always a compromise.
Right, exactly. So at my point in woodworking, as I said, I optimized my shop so that I have the tools that do really good at the things that I want them to do. And if I want to switch tasks, I go and grab another tool rather than, trying to stretch my jack plane or whatever it is into doing more.
Yeah.
So it's just a different phase, a different evolutionary phase of woodworking.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and I think if you're
I'm not
using...
quite walking upright yet.
You're almost there.
Still dragging the knuckles.
Still dragging.
Do you still have a tail, or have you reduced down to a coccyx?
I had one, but I cut it off with a chisel.
That's a good idea. You weren't using it anyway, so. Yeah. Okay, well, I think that just about wraps up the show. Shannon, why don't you give them the contact info and we'll get out of here.
I'm happy to, Mark. Folks, if you want to talk to us, it's real easy. Send us an email at woodtalkonline@gmail.com, and you suppose you could type it out there, but we prefer voice memos because we love to hear your lovely voices, especially if you have a radio voice or an accent. And send those via voice memo app to woodtalkonline@gmail.com, or type your question or your what's new update or whatever it is on our fancy contact form at woodtalkshow.com/contact.
Okay, so that's it.
I don't need to say any more than that. That's
okay.
Enough.
Great. Well, thanks for listening, everybody, and we will catch you next time.
We love you all.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Save.
Hey.
Okay, title for the second show is Dactylily.
Yeah. Any idea how to spell that?
Yes, Dactylily. Dactylily.
Wait. Dactally.
No.
L-I.
Dact.
You ain't got no alibi.
You Dactylily.
You ugly.
Oh, God. I'm surprised you know that movie, Matt. That's good.
Seriously.
That's a movie?
Whoa. So wait.
I was.
You don't know what that's from?
No, I know that's wrong. I just know people say it a lot.
Isn't that Goldie Hawn movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, where she's a
Wildcats.
football coach. Oh, so this is one of those things where you know something, but you don't even know where it came from.
I don't know. I always heard it in my childhood. I don't know.
It's actually a funny movie. I haven't even thought
think it
about that
was-
movie in years.
They must have references to it from some child movies.
Something else referencing it that you saw?
Yeah, when I was a kid. I don't know what it was.
When I was having lunch with James today, we were talking about UPS drivers. I used to work for UPS, and it was just like those guys have a pretty sweet gig around Christmas because they're just getting double and triple time. And I was talking about how I used to work in a mall, and I just had this flashback. It's if I were on Wood Talk right now, I'd say, now Matt, a mall is a big building with lots of stores in it.
Yeah, it's the Wildcat Cheerleaders. Let me see if this is going to work.
UGLY, you ain't got no alibi, you ugly. What? You ugly.
That's classic. Good stuff. So is there anything before that? I thought that I would call that the origin of that, but there might be something that happened before that.
Oh no.
What year is that from?
I think it was like 85,
Yeah.
something like that.
It's already before my time.
All right.
What did I say for the first show? We said something.
Oh, for show title?
It's in the recording.
Yeah, go listen to it.
Yeah.
Oh wait, you can't yet. What did
It was
we?
going to be the title of your book, like Inner Peace Through Joinery or something like that.
That's fine. Call it that.
That's what we'll do it.
Or the Latina bandsaw.
Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, I mean, Brusso's sponsoring that one, so maybe we should try to keep it.
No, they sponsor us because they like what we do. If they, by this point, if they didn't like nonsense and stupid titles, they would have gone elsewhere.
Actually, I like Latina Bandsaw. It's better. It brings in a more diverse crowd.
Yes, for sure. Dactyl.
What we need is pictures of the three of us holding a burrito bowl and going, "We like Latinos."
Yes, that's exactly what we need.
Yeah, I'm sure the Photoshop people will make that happen now.
How often is the live chat? Only when we do the recordings live. Matt's Woodland, and that would basically be Fridays around this time. We usually record around 1 p.m. my time, with 3 p.m. Eastern.
Yep.
And Make Brooklyn says it's sweet that you let the fetus talk too. I think he's talking about you, Matt.
Oh,
He done called you a fetus.
yeah, whatever. It's young, Someday that'll be a compliment.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, how is young an insult? I guess only in woodworking is it an insult.
That's true.
You're so young and energetic and alive. Look at you.
Oh, I was gonna say, when you got your little haircut dealie, I was like, what the hell, Mark? Just dropped at least 5-10 years.
I know. Everyone's like, you look 10 years younger. And I put the beard back. You look 10 years older. It's like, look, it's facial hair, people. That's what it does. See? Look at me. I look like I'm 12.
You're getting the Reed Richards thing going on now.
I know. Look at the gray. The gray's coming in. Nicole likes it.
Oh, yeah.
She's into it. What are you going to do?
Probably good. Keep it alive,
Keeping it alive.
That was your Rodney Dangerfield face right there, Mark.
She likes the old men. What can I say?
Oh.
Oh, man. I don't feel like doing anything. Just sit here and talk all day.
That sounds pretty good.
Right on.
Shannon's just happy he's in his shop.
Yep. It's
Are you?
Great to be here. I'm happy to be here.
Very nice to be here.
I basically gave this holdfast away on a live broadcast last night.
The duck.
It's so ineffective. I was just like, this thing sucks, and I practically threw it across the room. And I was like, if anybody in the chat room wants it, just send me an email.
Who makes that?
How long do you think that took?
Who makes
It's
that?
Veritas.
Is that a Veritas one? Doesn't work? Really?
It's terrible.
Why? They have their the other one with the turny thingy on the top.
Yeah.
I like that one. That one works pretty well. I'd never use it, but I like it.
But does it have a Cremona condom on it?
It does. I have one. It's not on that, but I do have one.
Yeah, this one works.
It's on
This
something
one works.
else.
But
Yeah.
the little
I don't put it on
flip
my
stop
holdfast.
one, as you push the stop down, you have to press down on the holdfast itself as you flip the thing down, or it just rides up the hole. It's just holdfasting should not be a two-handed sport.
You just said rides up the hole,
This
I
is
did.
and you didn't
Only
even.
in woodworking.
Did well.
So much
I
innuendo.
avoided saying press down on the shaft where it rides up the hole.
Yeah,
because
you
I
didn't even-
knew that would definitely.
You didn't even
Oh,
stop
you're
to
getting
dwell
smart
on it.
now.
Oh man, you guys is crazy. All right, so I'm going to kill the live stream. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody, and we'll catch you in a couple weeks, I guess.
Bye-bye.
Sorry about this live stream stuff. I wish I could get it figured out, but it's just not working for me. Screencasting and getting that to go into the feed is just on this program kind of tricky. What you going to do?